All right, let's just see if we're live here. See if we're live. We're live here. See if we're live. All right, we're live. Okay, so as always, first and foremost, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Bahashem Rakaha Kodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone GMS, that rule one that do teach one, that have taught me this truth. To you I say shalom, and shalom to the hopeful elect. Kwam Yasha Allah and Abad Babal. All right, so the title of this live show today is going to be called "Who is the Water Giving Rock?" And I believe that's pursuing to 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and 4, right? But I was inspired to do this lesson by the reading that I just did in Numbers chapter 20, going into the whole situation with Moses and the children of Israel. It's about the incident at the waters of Meribah Kadesh. All right, so that's when the children of Israel started murmuring and complaining to Moses about how they're going to die of thirst, right? So it just inspired me to look at who the rock is. The rock where the water that came out of. That really represents Yahweh Shai. So I'm just going to go into that now. Let me just switch the screen here. All right, so let's move to the screen. Okay, so we're going to start in Numbers chapter 20, verse 1. It says, "Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there." That's Moses' sister. And just keep in mind that this is nearing the end of the 40 years of them wandering in the wilderness. This is nearing the end, right? So just keep that in mind. You have to finish, man. You have to finish strong to get into the promised land, right? And, Moses, because of pride and him not giving the glory to Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, he didn't get to see the promised land. But this was at the very end, at the end. So it's very serious when it comes to you finishing your course, fighting the good fight of faith to the very end, not losing faith and not being proud, right? Because, you can lose salvation, right? So, just keep that in mind. This was at the very end. So, verse 2, and it says, "And there was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron." Of course, yeah, they came up against leadership because Moses and Aaron, they were the leaders at that time. So that's what the people do, man. If they have a problem, they go to the leadership, right? So that could be your kings, right? Your princes, your elders, right? Right. So, if you're running a camp and there's a problem, guess what? They're going to come to you, as the elder, right? So verse 3, "And the people chode with Moses and spake, saying, Would the Most High that we had died when our brethren died before Yahweh. And why have ye brought up the congregation of Yahweh into the wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there?" Right off the bat, the children of Israel, they were unthankful. They weren't, they didn't really care about what happened in the past when the Lord delivered them. They didn't really care about the miracles that the Lord did for them coming out of Egypt. They just assumed that the Lord was going to forsake them, and that Moses didn't give a shit about them, for lack of better words. Right. So you can see right off the bat here, they lack faith. All right. So here we go. It says, "And wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us in onto this evil place?" Well, that's what happens, man. The Lord gives you evil times when you come to serve him. And you have to remember that it's not going to be smooth, because we're not living in a perfect world. Right? Didn't Job say that? Didn't Job tell his wife that? Let me see if I can find the account, Lord willing. It's evil. I think that's in Job. See if I can find that. No. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, here we go. Job 2:10. I knew it was there. Job 2:10. Right. The Lord will sometimes show you evil, right? And that's really just to try your faith, to see what you're made out of. So this was all a test, right? And I believe the name Masha, or no, Meribah, the name of where they were, Kadesh, right? Meribah, Kadesh, it really just means trial when you go into the word. So this was all a trial, a test of your faith, right? So it's a test. So sometimes the Lord will give you evil to test you, to see what you're made of, to see if you're going to crack under pressure, to see if you're going to forsake him. So this is Job chapter 2, verse 10. But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of the Most High? And shall we not receive evil as well? So he's telling her, we're going to receive both good and evil when we serve the Lord, right? That's why when you go into Sirach chapter 2, it says, prepare thy heart for temptation. So anyways, it says here, in all this did not Job sin with his lips. So he didn't sin with his lips either. He didn't sin in his actions, and he didn't sin with his mouth, right? So this is just to test you, it's really to test your integrity and to see what you're made of, right? So they didn't look at it that way. So here we go. It says, verse 5, and wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us in onto this evil place? It is no place of seed or figs. Oh boy, someone's calling me. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna just ignore this. I'm gonna just ignore that. Anyways, so it says here, and Moses and Aaron went from the presence. No, I'm sorry. Verse 5. And wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us onto this evil place? It is no place of seed or figs or vines or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. Yeah, it's not a nice place. Sorry, give me 1 second. All right, man, leave me alone. All right, so it says here, excuse me. So it wasn't a nice place, man. It was very dry. It was very hot. There was no water. It wasn't like Egypt, because that's what they were thinking of in their mind. They're thinking about the leeks. They're thinking about the vegetables that they had in their gardens. The big open markets that they can go to and buy food, right? So the Lord will give you evil sometimes to test you, which evil just really means bad times, right? So he's just giving you those bad times to experience, really to test your faith. All right, so I can't stress that enough. So it says, neither is there any water to drink. And really the water is really the word, and the word is Yahweh Shai. That's the water that they should be thinking about. Verse 6, and Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly onto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of Yahweh appeared unto them. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes. Okay, and it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. And Moses took the rod from before Yahweh as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock, and he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels. Rebels. It's funny because what is really a rebel? You know, a rebel is likened unto a witch, right? Because the scripture says rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and that's how he was thinking of the people, man. Because they're a bunch of rebels, bunch of witches and warlocks. You know, that wasn't an easy congregation to deal with, Israel. You know, Israel is a very hard-headed people. They're very stiff-necked, and you know, they're set in their own ways, and it's hard to get through to them. Let me get a precept since I mentioned that. Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, right? So that's 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity. All right, so is as iniquity and idolatry, because thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, he hath also rejected thee from being king. And that happened to King Saul in the account too. You know, he got rejected, and many other kings got rejected. But yes, the point is correct about being a rebel. You know, you're pretty much a witch if you're a rebel, rebelling against the Lord. And you know what that means? You're not really following the law, statutes, commandments properly, and you're not really a good servant because you don't want to do what the Lord tells you to do. That's why I always say this, man. That's why Samuel told King Saul, obedience is better than sacrifice. You know, it's just about doing what the Lord tells you to do. Right? That's the best thing you can do. Right? So if you're not obeying, what does that make you? You're a rebel. Right? So rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and it shows that you're stubborn, man. Right? Stubborn. Now let's go back. It says, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? And Moses lifted up his hands, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. Yeah, and you know, this caused Moses to, you know, lose a little bit of faith and also get a little bit proud, right? And you know, this also shows you that not even the best of saints, till they come to the kingdom of heaven, must never think themselves out of the reach of Satan's temptations, man. Right? You got to think like that. You can never get proud in this thing. You got to always demonstrate your faith. And Moses, man, he was a very great saint in the sight of Yahweh Bashem El Shai. But even the greatest of saints, you know, they can't beat temptations and a lack of faith when it's displayed through the flesh. You know, at times, and this is just an example of that, right? Now that doesn't mean he's not chosen. I'm just using that as an example. So not even the best of saints, till they have come to the kingdom of heaven, till they have gained salvation, till they have gained perfection, must never think themselves out of the reach of Satan's temptations, man. Because that's Satan, man. You know, Satan was on that congregation to really tempt Moses like that and to say what he just said. You know, just remember that, right? So it's very serious. You know, you can learn from this story. Very serious, very serious. Okay, so let me read on. Verse 12, and Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believe me not to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Yashar'Allah, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. So, you know, they didn't get to go into the promised land, the land of milk and honey. And guess what, guys? I read earlier. Well, I said earlier that you know, this was nearing the end of them wandering the wilderness for 40 years. This was near the end. So they were this close into getting into the promised land, right? but now they didn't get to see it because they didn't finish strong with faith. So like I said earlier, not even the best of saints, till they have come to the kingdom of heaven, must never think themselves out of the reach of Satan's temptations. Just keep that in mind, man. It's very serious. Okay, it's very serious. All right, and then temptations come because you're coming out of the lust of your own heart. All right. Right. And that sucks because you're in the flesh, man. You get all caught up. So it's very serious. Very serious. All right. So anyways, let me get rid of this. Now let's go back and let me get rid of this too. Now let's go into, oh yeah, let me see here. Did it say tempt the Lord? No. Let's go back. Okay, so now let's go into the topic at hand here. And this is just more proof, what happened to Moses. I just pulled this up just for edification. I'll just read it. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 51. Because he trespassed against me among the children of Israel at the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin, because he sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Yasha'Allah, yet thou shalt see the land before thee, but thou shalt not go thither unto the land which I gave the children of Israel. Right? What a lot of them demons crossed over into the land, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But anyways, let's go into the topic at hand. Who is the rock? Who is the water-giving rock? Right, and that is the simple answer to that is Yahweh Shai. He is the rock, and he's the one that gives the water at the end of the day. So this is 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. Should I read up a little bit? Okay, yeah. You know what? I'll read up a little bit. It says, avoid Yasha'Allah's mistakes. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're not trying to make the same mistakes as our forefathers did in the past. That's why the scripture says the scriptures were written aforetime for our learning. That's for a reason. That's for a reason. It's so we learn not to make the same mistakes that we did in the past, because we are our forefathers coming back. Right. So that's why we have these scriptures, but it's very crucial that you read these scriptures all the time. Keep reading, man. And if you're not in the position to read, you listen to it. Right. Don't ever think that, this scripture is too basic for you, or that scripture is too hard. Right. Always listen to it. Always read it. Always go on YouTube, go on the videos, go on Daily Motion. Watch the elders and apostles, watch the other brothers who are teaching, keep listening to this word. Repetition is key, right? And practice makes perfect. That's why the scripture says, we rehearse the righteous acts, briefly paraphrasing, going into Judges 5:11, right? So anyways, it says 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1, moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant. That's right. Never be ignorant, right? Don't be stupid. You should not be in the know. You should be in the know. How that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. That's right. And we have that account. You read it. You can read it. And were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Yahweh Shai. Okay, so that rock that he struck in Meribah Kadesh, that was Yahweh Shai. Okay, and it's playing out, and it played out when Yahweh Shai came back 2,000 plus years ago, when he died on the cross, because that showed that he was striked again. And him being striked once through that crucifixion gave us that water to drink. And that's why we're able to obtain the truth and also able to obtain salvation, right? So just keep that in mind. So I'll read that again. And did all drink the same drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Hamashiach, Yahweh Shai. But with many of them, the Most High was not well pleased. And it's going to happen again. That's going into the 2/3. The Lord's not pleased with the 2/3. For they were overthrown in the wilderness, and you're going to die in this wilderness, this modern day wilderness, primarily in America and wherever you're scattered, wherever you 2/3 are scattered, wherever you're not believing, right? You're going to be overthrown. You're going to be killed. Now these things were our examples to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. And that's why that happened. That's why they said here, where's the account? Let me go up a little bit more. That's why they're talking like this. Numbers 20:4. And why have ye brought up the congregation of Yahweh, Bashem Yoshai, into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there, as if the Lord wants to kill you, So why would he go through all that effort by raising up Moses, raising up Aaron, destroying Egypt, giving them plagues, hardening Pharaoh's heart and making him look like a fool, and destroying his troops? Why would he go through all that just to bring you up to this point to kill you? Right? So obviously, they have a problem with their heart. Their minds aren't right, man. These people are lusting for something else. They're not lusting after Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and righteousness. They're lusting after the things of the world, right? And you can tell what a person's about by the way he's talking, man. This tells me a lot about the congregation of Israel. A majority of you Israelites are not right, man. Because a lot of you Israelites right now, you're talking this way. Okay, and that includes people who are in the truth too, who so-called are in the truth. And just say it like that. So it says here, verse 4, and why have you brought up the congregation of the Lord into this wilderness, that we and our cattle should die there? And wherefore have ye made us to come up out of Egypt to bring us in unto this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. That's right. They love the food. The food. Thinking about the food. Because you had plenty back then. Now you don't have plenty. So now when things are taken away from you and everything's not so good anymore, now you want to get pompous. Now you want to lose faith. Now you want to come up against the Lord. But anyway, this goes to show what Israel was thinking about. Their mind wasn't really on the Lord, right? All right, so now I just want to prove just more honorable mentions about proving that Yahweh Shai is the rock. I'm going to get Isaiah chapter 8, verse 14. And actually, I'm going to start at verse 13. Sanctify Yahweh of armies himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread. And he shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and for a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So, hey, Yahushua can trap you up, right? At the same time, he can save you, but he can trap you up. He can be a snare unto you, and you can stumble over the rock, right? And that's what happened, right? That's what happened in this account and many other accounts, right? And many other accounts. A lot of people stumbled over the rock, which is Yahweh Shai, because of their lack of belief, right? So this is just more proof that Yahweh Shai is the rock, aka the stone of stumbling. Let's get another one. This is Daniel chapter 2, verse 34. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. That's serious. And the wind carried them away, and no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, a great government, a great power, and filled the whole earth. All right. And that stone that was cut out without hands is really Yahweh Shai. And this just represents Yahweh Shai coming back and taking down all the kingdoms that are on this earth, especially America, which is the iron and clay, which is in the form of the NATO and the EU, because they're over them. He's going to take them down, right? So, he's a rock of offense, he's a stone of stumbling, he's a jinn, and he's also a snare, right? So, hey, this is just more proof that the Lord is the rock. He is the stone. All right. So now here we go. Now this is just to prove that, the striking of the stone is really Yahushua being crucified. Right. I'm going to go into that account because I'm just going to compare what happened in Meribah Kadesh to how the Lord was crucified. So just follow along with me here. Bear with me. So anyways, it says here, Exodus chapter 17, verse, I'm going to start at 5. And Yahweh said unto Moses, go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel, and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thine hand, and go. Behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders. And he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, and because they tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? And that's right, you can't tempt the Lord. A matter of fact, I just want to bring out, it's actually illegal. You're not supposed to tempt the Lord. I believe that's a law. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 16. You shall not tempt the Lord your power, Yahweh Bashem Yoshai, as ye tempted him in Massah. And that's what they did, right? So you should not do that. It's very dangerous to tempt the Lord, right? It's very dangerous, right? You're playing with fire when you do that. And that's what they did. Okay, so the rock was struck. So that's the account. Let's go into Hebrews. Let's go into Hebrews chapter 7, verse 27. And it says, actually, let me start at 26. For such an high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens. Beautiful, right? And it says, who needeth not daily as though high priest to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people's. For this he did once, right? So once, when he died once was on the cross. Okay. when he offered up himself, right? So he did this once. So he was striked once by dying on the cross, right? And that water, him being struck, that water came out, which was salvation for the nation of Israel and for us to get this truth. And there's other things that you can mention, how the veil was split in half when he died, right? As soon as he gave up the ghost and died, the veil in the temple was split in half. That opened us up to Yahweh Bashem Yoshai to get us more knowledge and understanding. So you can also go into that precept. I won't pull it up. You can find that yourself, right? So that also proves that, he was the rock that was struck because it gave us water. It gave us life. It gave us understanding. It gave us a chance to get into good graces of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai. It gave us the ability to inherit everlasting life and salvation, right? So the rock was struck just like Yahushua was crucified. And that was once, okay? So when you go back to this account, they struck it once, okay? Just like how he was crucified one time or once, okay? I hope you're following along. So now when you go into John chapter 4, verse 13, it says, Yahushua answered and said unto her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. And that's what I just spoke of. And we know what everlasting life means. Salvation, the kingdom of heaven, right? Being perfect and being good in the sight of Yahweh Bashem Yoshai forever. Right? So it just shows you Yahweh Shai is the rock, and he's the one that gives us the water. All right, so I just have some more. Just going back to the point where I said, this account that we just read, going into Meribah Kadesh, this was near the end of us wandering 40 years in the wilderness of Zin, or the wilderness of sin, right? And I also made a point, Moses was just, he was this close. Moses and Aaron, they were this close. You have to fight the good fight to the very end. You have to display faith to the very end to gain salvation. So this is just another point on that. So this is 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Okay, so you gotta fight the good fight. You gotta fight, which Moses was fighting. His life was a struggle. And I'm sure you brothers, especially you elders that are higher up in the spirit, right? You can give your own testament. When you were brought into this world, your fight was probably a struggle, man. I mean, your life was a fight, and it was a struggle, just like Moses. It was a fight, that's why they called him Masha, because he was drawn out of the waters. And why was that? Because his parents wanted him to escape death, right? Then he was adopted by what is this? Another notification. Okay, yeah, so he was adopted by Pharaoh's daughter, I believe. Then he had to run away. He had to flee. And then he found the burning bush. He found Yahweh, the name of the Lord, right? He found him. And then from then on, he had to fight. He had to fight for his people. He had to fight for freedom. He had to split the waters, right? A lot of miracles and a lot of fighting, So it's a fight, man. You got to keep fighting. So that's how we have to be in this truth. You have to fight. Okay, don't think that you're not going to put your dukes up. So it says, I have finished my course. That's right, I have finished. I have kept the faith. Yeah, you believe to the very end. You kept believing, right? And we know what faith is, pursuant to Hebrews 11. Faith is the evidence of things not seen. It's the substance of things hoped for. So you were believing in things that you couldn't see with your own eyes, right? So that's even a fight alone. That's another fight, right? People are going to come up against you saying, you still believe in that? You still believe in the Lord? I don't see the Lord coming, right? It's a fight to even believe sometimes, man, because people come up against you. You're going to have moments where you doubt, but guess what? You got to fight through that. Anyways, let's move on. So it says 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4. No man that worth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned, except he strive lawfully. The husbandman that laboreth must be first partaker of the fruit. So yeah, you gotta fight for your salvation, and really you're set up to be a soldier. Soldier just simply means solitary, to be solitary. Actually, I was supposed to read verse 3. So it says here, verse 3, thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of a Mashiach Yahushua. That's right. So you got to endure hardness, right? And you got to be a soldier. Soldier means to be solitary. So that means you're not going to act like the average citizen, right? You're going to be very strict with your life, right? You're going to be in a routine, right? In terms of worshiping Yahweh Bashem El Shai, rehearsing the righteous acts and obeying orders. Obedience is better than sacrifice, right? And if you're a soldier, that means you're a civil servant, and you don't really have the same privileges as the average civilian, right? So you're not really average, all right, in terms of serving Yahweh Ba'ashem El Shai. Verse 4, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this world. That's right, because you're in a war. You can go into Ephesians, the 6th chapter, talks about that. Right? We're in a war, man. Ephesians 6 and 10. We're in a spiritual war, right? So if we're in a spiritual war, man, you can't entangle yourself with the affairs of this life, the things of the world. That could be your job, your woman, right, your children, or whatever carnal thing that's in front of you. Right? You can't let that take you out. Right? You can't let that take you out. That's why Yahushua told his mom, I'm here to do my father's business, going into Luke, the 2nd chapter and the 48th verse on down. I'm about my father's business. This is business at the end of the day, man. This is business. Okay. So it says that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier. That's right. The Lord wants you to be a soldier. So attention, 21 gun salute. That's right. But we're not using the gun. We're using the sword, pursuant to the book of Hebrews, the double-edged sword, right? So yeah, the Lord wants you to be a soldier, right? Okay. And that means you're going to be in order if you're a soldier. A lot of men are not in order, man. So if you're not in order, and you don't want to respect the rank and file, you don't want to respect brothers, you don't want to respect the Lord and what he told you to do, really, you're not a soldier. You're just an average civilian that's walking out here. Right? You're not a soldier. You're not hard. Right? You're not hard. A soldier is hard. So it means, if you're in this truth, man, and you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're a soldier, you're really a hard individual in the spirit. You're a hard person. Don't think you're a soft person, man. To be in this truth, you got to be really hard. You got to be hard. Your mentality's got to be hard. All right. So anyways, I hope this was edifying. So till next time, I'm going to switch the screen here. Till next time, I just want to give all praises, glory, and honor due unto Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakaha Chodash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone GMS. To you, I say shalom. And shalom to the hopeful elect, Kwame Yasha Allah and Ababa Ball. Shalom.